Part 83. Magic Planet Online Game. Author, Lanzai Cai Shi Zhen Shen. Chapter 821. So far, there are no mutant supremacists in Professor X's team, and no one opposes mutants and ordinary people living together. Even Professor X feels that he has neglected this point in the past. Fortunately, there is still a chance to correct it. In view of the great reputation of Professor X's school, Xiaoming discussed with everyone that the mutant base will still exist in the form of a school. The leader is still Professor X. As the leader, Charles's first decision was, he wants all the base options provided by Xiaoming. This is not a joke, he really wants them all. Charles's plan is to start with the easy and then the difficult. First, build an underground base, so that mutants and ordinary people who come here will not be too unfamiliar with the environment. When the number of people is large enough, you can consider marching to the bottom of the sea. At this time, everyone is familiar with the life in the base and doesn't miss human society much. After developing the underwater base, mutants will be able to gain a foothold. Others such as Mars, Ceres, Vesta, Europa, and even Pandora, although they are also needed, these can only be exploratory bases. Let the mutant group have the choice of development, so that even if the mutant population expands, they don't have to compete with ordinary humans on the surface for resources and living space. The first step is the location of the underground base. The most important thing is to avoid earthquake-prone areas. Otherwise, the base built by Xiaoming will not be able to withstand natural disasters. The earthquake zones on the Earth are generally located at the junction of major plates, and there are mainly three places: the Pacific Rim Seismic Belt, the Mediterranean Seismic Belt, and the Ocean Ridge Seismic Belt. There are several large areas to choose from. There are the northern part of Eurasia, the eastern part of North and South America, the western part of Africa, and Australia. These places are vast, and each place can accommodate many underground bases. The final location is the eastern part of South America, within the Amazon rainforest. The eastern part of North America is the home ground of the American traders. Building a base here may not be hidden from the major government agencies. The northern part of Eurasia has a cold climate and limited products, Africa has many desert areas, Australia is better, but it is also an endless grassland. These terrains lack sufficient cover, and the activities of mutants are easily discovered by humans. It's not that there is no good place at all, but it's not as convenient as the Amazon forest. This is the last undeveloped area on the ground of human beings. There are almost no human figures inside the big forest. Even the spy satellites in the sky can hardly detect the activities of a few people inside the forest. Even if they are occasionally discovered, they can pretend to be members of a certain country's scientific expedition team. This forest is mainly in Brazil. Brazil is a country with average strength and a strong underworld. This is simply the best cover for mutants. In the shack of a black family in Africa, a little black boy curled up in a ball, with blood at the corners of his mouth, and he was already dying. His mother died of dystocia when he was born. His father was killed casually by a gunman a few days ago. The orphaned boy can only make a living by begging, but going out to beg reveals that he is a mutant. His mutant genes are very weak, and he only has gills around his neck that can breathe underwater. However, this is the interior of Africa, where there is not much water at all, so his superpowers are useless. Instead, he attracted hostility from others. Everyone thought he was a person possessed by a demon, so he not only did not get any food, but was also beaten severely. Struggling back home, the child's life was half gone. Unexpectedly, others still refused to let him go. Just now, several people rushed into his house, beat him to the point of near death, and then robbed all his things and left. Only a small body covered in blood was left, curled up in the corner waiting for death to come. In his dying moments, a beautiful woman appeared in front of him, wearing a very beautiful dress, but her face was not very clear. "Poor child, are you willing to accept my salvation?" A voice like the sound of nature came over. Although the other party spoke a very strange language, the little boy understood it. Of course he was willing. The child nodded vigorously, and did not notice anything unusual in the surrounding environment. In fact, it's not that he didn't notice it at all, but he thought he came to a place like heaven. Isn't it normal for the environment to change? If you accept my salvation, you will go to another happy place to live. The condition is that you have to promise to be a good person forever and not violate the rules and laws there. This is even more no problem. The little boy is naturally willing to make a promise. He is so young that he hasn't learned to do evil yet. The contract is established. The beautiful woman raised her hand, and a piece of white paper with some words written on it appeared out of thin air and sank into the little boy's body. The little boy instinctively felt that he had really signed a contract just now. If he violated it, he would pay a huge price. Then a flash of light, the little boy's body was picked up, and in a blink of an eye he left his shack and came to a strange place. "Blue Demon, you are back to pick someone up again," another woman's voice sounded, and it was Storm who spoke. She herself was black, and when she saw a seriously injured black child, she immediately felt distressed. Oh! How could this child be so badly injured? Morpheus, before Blue Devil could answer her question, she had already called for help. Morpheus's clone was nearby, and he raised his hand and cast several healing spells, including magic and ninjutsu. The black child immediately recovered at a speed visible to the naked eye. It's just that he was hungry, and magic couldn't help. As soon as the injury healed, the boy's stomach made a drum-like sound. The child looked at the ant who saved him with a pitiful face, wiping away tears. Storm's heart was about to melt, and she was full of tears. "Auntie will take you to dinner right away. We'll be there soon." After that, seeing that the child couldn't walk by himself, she carried the child directly to the restaurant. She even forgot to say thank you to Morpheus. Blue Devil touched his stomach and shouted, "Hey, wait for me, I'm hungry too." Morpheus's clone looked at the backs of the people who hurried away and smiled knowingly. Yin Xiaoming appeared beside Morpheus, looking at the huge new mutant school and the figures everywhere. He also smiled. At the same time, several black men with guns rushed into the little boy's original shack. Where is the person? The boss asked us to bring this fish man to him. Why is he gone? Magic Planet Online Game. Author, Lanzai Cai Shi Zhen Shen. Chapter 822. In the original comics, the X-Men and the Marvel world with the Avengers are actually the same world. It's just that this is a reincarnation world, and the background used is mainly movies in parallel worlds. So there are no Avengers in the mutant world. And because this is a created world, some people who should exist according to reason, such as the plot characters of X-Men 2 and 3, will not appear immediately. Only when the plot time of the movie advances to that position, these people will show up. Xiaoming caught Magneto and his subordinates in X-Men 1. Magneto, Sabretooth, and Mystique were all locked up in the cage barrier in Bright Summit. Toad couldn't do it alone, so he secretly ran to the vicinity of the school to investigate a while ago, and it seemed that he had plans to rescue Magneto and others. Since he came to the door, Xiaoming didn't hesitate to lock him up together. What Xiaoming and Professor X and others did was not hidden from them. Instead, they let them see the whole process. The mentality of these people is also quietly changing. In addition, the two reincarnations who could transform into big bugs disappeared. In fact, after Xiaoming conducted a global reconnaissance, he did not see a single reincarnation. Xiaoming secretly admired that he was indeed a reincarnation, and his intuition was sharp. He actually discovered that the situation was not right early and chose to retreat. In fact, Xiaoming guessed wrong. How could they retreat voluntarily? They were simply cleared out by the reincarnation space. Some people may ask, didn't Xiaoming walk out of the world of The Legend of Zhu and enter the world of X-Men before? This world should not be global in nature? Why can Xiaoming investigate the world this time? In fact, the scale of a world like The Legend of Zhu is too small, and it can be settled in a territory slightly larger than Hong Kong. Many Hong Kong movies, as well as some European and American movies, take place in the same city, so their reincarnation worlds are so small. Small worlds like this can be embedded in any large reincarnation world at will. So this time, the reincarnation space is in the world of X-Men, with many such small worlds dotted in stars. If Xiaoming is interested, he can also go and play one by one. But you have to be more careful after you go there. Those worlds may prohibit supernatural energy, and it is very troublesome if you can't get out after entering. Of course, Xiaoming is very busy now and has no time and leisure at all. Because Xiaoming imprisoned Magneto and his gang, the reincarnation space calculated that those reincarnations did not think there was any chance, so they directly judged that their mission failed. Therefore, the plot of X-Men 1 has ended, and the plot of X-Men 2 will automatically start next. Of course, even if X-Men 2 is started, Magneto and his gang are still imprisoned by Xiaoming. It is impossible to run away magically. So they can't do anything. Those characters in the plot that have nothing to do with them are ready to move. Although the last battle of X-Men 1 did not break out and the Statue of Liberty was not damaged, the world and the people have not yet regarded mutants as a big deal. However, William Stryker, a US colonel who is extremely hostile to mutants, still started his evil plan. William Stryker is an ordinary human, and his son Jason Stryker is a mutant, a psychic mutant, nicknamed Master of Illusion. He has the ability to create illusions for others and manipulate them to do anything. This ability is not inferior to Professor X. It's just that when he was a child, he didn't know how to control his own abilities, and ended up using illusions to kill his mother. This is also the reason why William Stryker is super hostile to all mutants. He expanded the mistake of an underage mutant to the entire mutant collective. Jason Stryker used to be a student of Professor X, but now he has been transformed into the 143rd mutant by his cruel father. I don't know what kind of transformation and torture he has undergone. Now William can control Jason, and Jason uses his ability to control others. William has obtained the most perfect weapon. His biggest plan has also entered the countdown stage. This plan is to raid the mutant school, capture Professor X, and obtain the brainwave amplifier. Use Jason to control Professor X, and use the brainwave amplifier to find and kill all the mutants on the Earth in one fell swoop. But so far, the American traitorous government has a good impression of Professor X. William can't do anything to the mutant school. In order to achieve his goal, William asked Jason to control a mutant to assassinate the president. Of course, he must not succeed, just to scare the president, so that William's plan can be passed by the president. And the mutant sent to assassinate the president is Blue Devil. Blue Devil has blue skin and looks like a devil. He has the superpower of teleportation and the fighting instinct of a beast. In fact, he is very kind in his heart and is a devout Christian. He believes in God. Controlling such a pure mutant to do bad things, Stryker's heart is basically black. In this life, Blue Devil's luck is very good. He just appeared in the White House and was discovered by Xiaoming. He pulled him out. Although the control ability of the Illusion Master is very powerful, it is scum compared with the Taoist magic. Xiaoming released a Bingxinju and rescued Blue Devil from the controlled state. After hearing Xiaoming and Professor X's plan, Blue Devil immediately asked to join. The professor and the leader welcomed him with both hands. His ability to teleport is so convenient when transporting mutants. Of course, the first thing to do is not to save people all over the world. Instead, with Blue Devil's guidance, Xiaoming directly cleaned up Colonel Stryker's base. There are a large number of troops in Stryker's base, and some controlled mutants. However, this level of resistance is not enough for Xiaoming's army of shadow clones. Besides, Xiaoming has put his powerful mental power deep into the base, and there is no need to open the base. Just summon the shadow clone inside. Jason met Xiaoming and hit a wall. His illusion ability is not effective for Xiaoming, who has a mental power of level 6-7. After eating about 1/4 of his mental power, Xiaoming completely cured him. Death Girl, created by Stryker, is a mutant with the same ability as Wolverine. And she is also proficient in various martial arts. Under Jason's control, they obeyed William Stryker. They were also easily rescued by Xiaoming. As for the human army, they were easily knocked out one by one. The mutants imprisoned by Stryker were also rescued. In the whole battle, not to mention the death of people, there was no bloodshed. You are listening to novels at Bless Up channel. Wish you happiness and luck. Please subscribe to receive new novels. How do you feel about this novel? Please like and leave a comment. Magic Planet Online Game. Author, Lanzai Cai Shi Zhen Shen. Chapter 823. The battle went so smoothly that Xiaoming found it incredible. When the reincarnation space cancelled his privileges and said that his strength would be limited according to the different reincarnation worlds, he was a little worried. However, after the taking the commander world was completed, Xiaoming was no longer worried about the world of low martial arts and low magic. His strength could only be lowered to the highest level in this world. Since it was the highest level, he had 3 bodies and 2 followers. There was almost nothing to fear from 5 top masters. What's more, even in this low-level world, the true Qi of Chang Shengju can still exist weakly, which gave Xiaoming a greater advantage. Of course, Xiaoming's biggest advantage is his almost endless resurrection stones and other props in the raiding mall. No one should be able to compare with Xiaoming in terms of quantity. In the X-Men world, Xiaoming's strength was hardly suppressed, which shows that there are beings in this world that are no less than himself, which made Xiaoming suspicious at the beginning. As a result, after such a long time, the highest masters Xiaoming encountered were nothing more than Professor X and Magneto. However, their strengths are seriously biased, and their grades can only barely reach A. There is no threat to Xiaoming. This is strange. There should be existences in this world that are no less powerful than himself. But even if Xiaoming uses the scanning map to see the whole world, he has not found such a powerful existence. If it is not that there is no existence at all, then this strong man exists in a way that Xiaoming cannot understand. Maybe it is a god like Eva on Pandora. It doesn't matter, as long as he doesn't come out to make trouble, he will not cause any danger to Xiaoming. Instead, Xiaoming can go all out and crush the whole world. We certainly know that the highest combat power in the X-Men world is Jean Grey. She is different from other mutants. Her superpowers come from the possession of the Phoenix Force. The Phoenix Force is the embodiment of the original cosmic life force and emotional power. It is immortal and changeable. It was born between the chaos of the universe and the beginning of all things. It is the child of the universe. Jean Grey only obtained a small part of it. With powerful power. However, such a powerful force, the young Jean Grey can't control it at all. Professor X helped Jean seal this power. Hidden deep in her heart, it became Jean Grey's second personality, Dark Phoenix. This mysterious power was beyond Xiaoming's cognition, so Xiaoming did not find the Phoenix Force without him looking for it. Of course, if he knew, Xiaoming, who has triple source energy, still has the conditions to discover the Phoenix Force. Professor X, who knew about this, was still hesitant about whether to tell the leader. A journey of 1,000 miles reveals a person's true character. Although Charles thought that the leader was a good person and might even become Jean Grey's savior. But he still needed to be more cautious. After all, the power was too strong. He was worried that the leader would do something bad because of greed. He was also worried that the leader would not be able to cope with it and become a victim. The professor was very entangled. In addition, Magneto actually knew about this matter, but with his mind and temperament, he would not expose this matter just to make trouble. What's more, Lao Wan still wants to use this matter as his last trump card, but it's not the right time yet. Xiao Ming doesn't know these things for the time being. He only knows that he can do whatever he wants in this world. The base was completely destroyed, but William Stryker was still unwilling. Seeing the leader's 7 shadow clone Neo and Trinity, he wanted to say something to justify himself, and even planned to use his mouth to turn him against the two. Unfortunately, Xiao Ming saw his life energy clearly. His situation is actually a common state among humans. When he was hurt, he would vent his anger on irrelevant people, and thought he was extremely right. In fact, it was very ugly. For example, some young people were deceived by one or more opposite sexes during their love. Some of them would come to the conclusion that all opposite sexes are bad people. At the least, they are hostile to all young opposite sexes, and at the worst, they will take indiscriminate revenge on him, her. The nature is the same. As victims, they are pitiful, but when they retaliate by hurting innocent people, they are still sinful. In Xiao Ming's opinion, he can be a homeboy and enjoy the many benefits of the two-dimensional world. Forget it, let's ignore him. Because of Stryker's special identity and status in the American Trader Army, he caused greater harm to mutants. Before that, in order to control his son Jason Stryker, he carried out inhumane transformation on his son. Jason is the 143rd mutant. It is conceivable that there are at least 142 victims before him, and there is no telling how many there are after Jason. Most of them have died due to failed transformations and have been made into specimens for anatomical research. With the circle and scan map, Xiao Ming has already explored the inside and outside of the base clearly. At the same time, he also saw William's heart clearly. At this time, he still wanted to get away with his mouth cannon. William Stryker thought too highly of himself. Of course, Colonel Stryker is not dead. There are many victims such as the Death Woman and Jason. Killing him is too easy for him. Even the sword of rewarding good and punishing evil is a waste to use on him. This sword rewards good and punishes evil, and it also hopes that evildoers will repent. People like William don't deserve a chance to repent. To deal with such a villain who would not be satisfied with 100 deaths, Kurama recommended a very excellent demon parasitic plant to Xiao Ming, anthropomorphic flower. Anthropomorphic flower can completely merge with the body of the hosted parasitizes, and the hosted parasitizes can no longer move independently. If the host is injured, it will instinctively heal the host. As long as the host's brain is not damaged, it is said that the host can live like this for the rest of his life. Any physical damage will heal automatically. This is a plant specially used to punish the most evil people. Let's take Stryker as the first experimental subject. This fat American colonel was planted in a large flower pot. His victims can use all kinds of punishments on him. Anyway, he can't die. Each victim has the right to retaliate against him for the damage he has suffered, with interest. And those victims who have died also have detailed records. Xiao Ming specially arranged his subordinates to retaliate against these injuries. At this time, Stryker hated himself very much for leaving such detailed records. Why? First, he was experimenting on mutants, so of course he had to keep detailed records. Second, reading these records frequently could satisfy his twisted heart, and writing them down was for Stryker's own pleasure. This was totally awesome, right? Magic Planet Online Game. Author, Lanzai Cai Shi Zhen Shen. Chapter 824. The punishment of the anthropomorphic flower is really powerful. The victims can take out their anger on William Stryker at will. After fully venting their anger, dozens of mutants who were rescued by Xiaoming and suffered cruel persecution from William. Under the leadership of Jason Stryker and the Death Woman, all willingly joined Xiaoming's army. Perhaps in the mutant school, most students still worship Professor X, and the leader's strength cannot change this. But these rescued mutants have no good feelings for the professor. Some people even have some dissatisfaction in their hearts. In their opinion, since Professor Charles is rescuing mutants all over the world, why didn't he show up when they were cruelly persecuted by Colonel Stryker? It's probably unreasonable to say that Professor X was completely unaware of this. Charles knew with his knees that someone must be doing this kind of thing. Professor X only dared not be too strong on such things in order to maintain a good relationship with the government. Otherwise, it would inevitably cause the disgust of the traitorous American government. He doesn't have the overwhelming strength of Xiaoming, so he is bound by many things. So these mutants worship the leader who is not afraid of anything. They are willing to follow Xiaoming to the ends of the earth. Xiaoming doesn't care. There are many places to put them. Since they are willing to follow, Xiaoming doesn't mind accepting them. After these mutants follow Xiaoming, they will get better nutrition and teaching, and will become more powerful helpers in the future. To be on the safe side, Xiaoming first gave each of them a bug evolution needle and life essence, so that they don't have to worry about them becoming bad in the future after becoming bugs. Based on their experience, this possibility exists. As for whether this is considered depriving their personal freedom, Xiaoming can't say. It's just that Xiaoming did his best before this, and explained all the situations of becoming a bug human, but he couldn't make anyone change their mind. For those students in the mutant school who have freedom and live quite well, few people are willing to be loyal to others forever. But for these persecuted mutants, becoming a bug is the best choice. Not only can they enhance their strength, but they can also cling to someone powerful. They don't want to be captured by other organizations for experiments. Of course, there is an exception, that is Blue Devil. Blue Devil was controlled by Jason, but he did not suffer much persecution in the base. Moreover, Blue Devil is a devout Christian, and his loyalty cannot be devoted to anyone other than the Lord. He has always been a cooperative relationship with Xiaoming and Professor X. After transforming into insect humans, the bodies of these mutants are healthier. Their strength has also improved to varying degrees. Most of them are hovering between D and C levels, and only Death Girl has reached B level, and her combat power is still higher than Wolverine. As for the Illusion Master Jason, half of his strength comes from his own superpowers, and the other half comes from the inhumane transformation and torture by Stryker. When he was the strongest, it was also the time when his mental trauma was the most serious. The whole person no longer listened to his own command, and was completely manipulated by his father William. When Xiaoming cured his physical and mental problems, his strength has decreased a lot. It has temporarily dropped to C level. There are similar examples in reality. Some people have a tumor in their heads, which affects their nerves and makes them excellent painters. After the tumor was removed by surgery, his body recovered, but his painting ability also returned to zero. Of course, Jason's situation is different. His ability decline is only temporary. With a stronger insect-human body and the bonus of super-powered seeds in the future, Jason will definitely become a more terrifying existence. Xiaoming did not hide the fact that the mutants followed the leader and were transformed into insect humans from Professor X and his subordinates. Everyone still has to cooperate for a long time, and concealing such things is likely to cause rifts. After confirming that all mutants are voluntary, the professor has no objection. The main reason is that these people have opinions about him. The professor felt guilty when he felt this emotion. Naturally, he did not dare to interfere. In addition, Professor X saw Jason's lively appearance and thought that he was still sitting in a wheelchair when he was just rescued, and he felt a little envious. It is obvious that becoming an insect human has strengthened his physical fitness and also given Jason the ability to act independently. Charles is in a wheelchair because of a spinal injury and cannot move freely. Jason has no major physical problems. He used a wheelchair before because he could no longer walk after being tortured by William. After the spiritual cultivation is good, it is natural to be able to walk freely. Professor X certainly understands the reason, but it is inevitable that his emotions fluctuate. Charles, in fact, I can also help you get rid of this wheelchair, Yin Xiaoming said to Professor X. This, forget it, I don't want to be your loyal subordinate. Wheelchair, I'm used to it. Professor X values his independence more. Haha, Charles, you think too much. Your disease can be cured without turning into a bug man. You mean? Professor X thought, those nurses. He was talking about Xiaoming's uniform nurse beast. New mutants and ordinary people are constantly added to the underground base, and there will always be some people who are injured or sick. In the early days, the medical equipment and medicines here were not sufficient, and Xiaoming's nurse also made many guest appearances. Ordinary humans cannot see the mind beasts, but most mutants can see them and are not unfamiliar with them. These mind beasts with medical abilities also opened the eyes of Jean Grey and others. It's almost the same, but it's another kind of mind ability. Can we try it once? It's too troublesome to explain the difference between the mind beast nurse and the mind ability life-saving golden needle. Xiaoming was too lazy to explain it slowly. He directly asked for a treatment first to try. Professor X was still a little hesitant, and Jean Grey, who was guarding Professor X, took the initiative to persuade the professor to give it a try. Charles agreed to it. The magic of the life-saving golden needle was completely unexpected by the two. After the golden needle was inserted, Professor X actually got the opportunity to run within 30 minutes. At the same time, this treatment did not affect his telepathic ability. Charles was rarely so excited. It was not until 30 minutes later that the effect disappeared and he was carried back to the wheelchair by Xiaoming. Naturally, he agreed to the next course of treatment. In return, he expressed his willingness to teach the leader all his skills and tricks in spiritual power. How much he can learn depends on the leader's ability. Xiaoming gladly accepted what he wanted. Magic Planet Online Game. Author, Lanzai Cai Shi Zhen Shen. Chapter 825. Before, due to Professor X's mental power, he had once entered Xiaoming's Tsukuyomi world. As a result, a large amount of mental power was bitten by Tsukuyomi, and Xiaoming can now use the weakened version of Charles's skills. Of course, it is definitely not as exquisite as Charles's original skills. That is the skill that Professor X has been honing for decades. It is not something that Xiaoming can catch up with by biting. If it were not for the fact that he could not repay Xiaoming's kindness with other things, Charles would be reluctant to teach Xiaoming these skills. What? You said Charles can play dumb and doesn't need to repay at all. Is that still Professor X's character? What is unexpected is that Xiaoming only took a few hours to learn 70% or 80% of so many complex skills. The teaching process was kept confidential, and no one was allowed to visit, even Jean Grey and others were isolated. After the teaching was completed, neither of them revealed any details to the outside world. The scene was very strange, because Xiaoming used his telepathic ability private tutor. Xiaoming himself didn't mind wearing a student uniform to study, he was used to it. But Charles still felt embarrassed about wearing a teacher's uniform. Although Charles's illness could not be cured by medicine on Earth. But the ability of mind is metaphysical, and it is not difficult to treat it with supernatural energy. So far, Xiaoming has not encountered a disease that cannot be cured by life-saving golden needle among ordinary people. The only problem that cannot be solved is the problem of Sheneng 2 Captain Zinku. That was the injury suffered by the S-level reincarnation, and the life-saving golden needle was completely ineffective. Charles's treatment lasted for a quarter. At this time, the mutant base located under the Amazon rainforest in South America X Academy has begun to take shape. The mutants living here and the ordinary people who come with them have exceeded 1,000. X Academy has reached the size of a small town. If the recruitment is open, there are probably more than 10,000 people now. But Xiaoming has to lay a good foundation for the base. In terms of recruiting personnel, it is better to be short than unqualified and foolproof. For this purpose, Xiaoming specially developed a new mind ability, another member of the Mind Beast Uniform series Lawyer Uniform. The Lawyer Uniform has the ability to formulate a contract. That is another application of constraints and oaths in the power of mind. The requirements of the contract are, the terms of the contract, in Xiaoming's view, must be reasonable and fair. There must be no deception. As a being with multiple sources of energy, Xiaoming believes that fairness and rationality are very valuable. Once the contract is established, it cannot be cancelled, and the person who signs the contract must abide by the contract. The longer the contract lasts, the stronger the effect of the contract will be. The first contract drafted by Xiaoming's Lawyer Uniform is the entrance contract for joining X Academy. The conditions are very simple. Those who join X Academy must be willing to be a good person who abides by the law. Sorry, those who want to do bad things will not be accepted by X Academy. This is a very reasonable request in Xiaoming's eyes. In the eyes of Cyclops, Wolverine, and others, this is an excessive request. They believe that normal people will always make some small mistakes consciously or unconsciously. In this regard, the hot-tempered Wolverine is simply the best. Is the requirement of abiding by the law a bit excessive? They don't know, in Xiaoming's concept. The law is divided into two parts, criminal law and civil law. The law-abiding requirements in the contract are actually for criminal law, that is, serious criminal acts are prohibited. Civil disputes are generally not subject to contracts. It took a lot of effort for Xiaoming to explain the situation to Cyclops and others. Moreover, this contract is only an initial measure. It is still hard to say whether it can be continued in the future or not. Anyway, even if it is just to prohibit criminal crimes, Wolverine is still not qualified. However, people like Wolverine and Cyclops do not need to sign the contract, so it doesn't matter for the time being. Of course, Xiaoming wants to set the contract as an iron bar and continue to enforce it in X Academy. He doesn't understand why these people think that the so-called freedom of human beings also includes the freedom to allow them to break the law and commit crimes. In fact, this is due to inherent concepts. Due to the characteristics of human society, it is impossible to prevent crimes in advance, and only responsibility can be pursued afterwards. Therefore, prohibiting human vicious crimes in advance seems to infringe on their freedom. However, Xiaoming adopts means beyond ordinary humans. Of course, it can be done more thoroughly. The most important thing is that Xiaoming will not force others to join X Academy. If any mutant feels that this contract is inappropriate, he can stay in human society. In addition, the most amazing thing about this beast lawyer is that it can even appear in the world of Tsukuyomi. The black boy who was recruited in the previous article was wearing the lawyer uniform seen in the world of Tsukuyomi. And signed the contract. Yes, Xiaoming always uses the world of Tsukuyomi to meet mutants and their families in dreams. Here, no one can lie to Xiaoming. Whether the mutant lives a happy and safe life, he will not dare to admit it under the pressure of others. His parents or relatives and friends can't hide the truth. If the child is very young, parents who really love their children are generally willing to enter X Academy with their children. Of course, if they cannot enter X Academy for some reason, Xiaoming will also erase their memories of this dream before the dream ends. Professor X and Master of Illusion both have the ability to cleanse memories. Xiaoming has also learned it. The effect of mutual cooperation is very good. After agreeing to join and signing the contract, Xiaoming will use the wormhole skill to teleport these people to X Academy. Later, when Blue Demon joined, his teleportation ability could also help Xiaoming share some work. Of course, all the mutants that Xiaoming has come into contact with will have some blood and body tissue stolen by him without anyone noticing. For the time being, among the abilities of mutants, only the skills related to mental power can be easily mastered by Xiaoming. For other abilities, Xiaoming needs a long time to analyze. The superpowers in X-Men are not the kind of superpowers that are systematically improved and trained, but the innate, randomly assigned mutant genes. This is a bit like the devil fruit in One Piece. It's just that the superpowers are much worse than the devil fruit. The difference between the two is that in One Piece, there are fruits for you to eat, and everyone can buy them or fight for them. The superpowers of X-Men can only be born. People who eat devil fruits will have their abilities suppressed in seawater and will also lose the ability to swim. The superpowers in the X-Men do not have this obvious shortcoming. You are listening to Novels at Bless Up channel. Wish you happiness and luck. Please subscribe to receive new novels. How do you feel about this novel? Please like and leave a comment. Magic Planet Online Game. Author, Lanzai Cai Shi Zhen Shen. Chapter 826. Xiaoming eagerly looks forward to the future. After the Insect King integrates these superpowers, will he be able to use them? It can even be directly inherited to the new insect humans like the Sherinan and the Byakugan. Going a step further, it can also allow other people to have superpowers through organ transplantation and other means. Wouldn't that mean that he can make devil fruits, then he will be rich? Thinking of this, Xiaoming's saliva is almost flowing out. Unfortunately, such a big pie will not fall from the sky for Xiaoming. Just like the blood limit obtained in the Naruto world, a small amount of blood and tissue is not enough for analysis. Intuition tells Xiaoming that if he wants to obtain a certain power, he must obtain sufficient samples. Either wait for more than 10 or 20 years, and the dandruff that a person naturally drops will be enough. Or he must cause serious damage to a person to obtain enough body tissue in a short time. Probably only dead mutants can Xiaoming absorb the other party's body without any psychological barriers. Even Magneto and others who were imprisoned by Xiaoming could not do anything to seriously harm their bodies. Let alone others. It can only be said that Xiaoming's time to enter these two worlds was not very good. If he entered the world when the battle was the most intense, there would be plenty of corpses for Xiaoming to absorb on the battlefield. In the Naruto world, it was because the enemy was too strong, Xiaoming had to retreat and miss the Fourth Ninja World War. In the X-Men world, it was because Xiaoming came too early. He completely solved the possibility of future wars with one move. Not only Magneto and his diehards have been imprisoned. Even the villains among ordinary humans, who want to attack mutants, can no longer find anyone. A large number of mutants, as well as their relatives, disappeared directly in the world. No one can see them alive or dead. Many American traitorous institutions and departments are suspicious of each other. Almost all intelligence agencies or force departments are interested in mutants. It would be strange if they were not interested in such a practical ability. It's just that mutants have two big leaders, both Professor X and Magneto are very scary. Organizations that are not strong enough dare only do small research and dare not do big things. The only ones who really do this on a large scale are William Stryker and his group under the military system. The military has a great deterrent effect on mutants. Even so, William Stryker is very careful to keep it secret. He built his base underground, next to a large dam. Once things get out of control, he will blow up the dam to flood everything and destroy all traces. He is quite cautious. Now mutants are disappearing on a large scale and in a large area. At first, various institutions thought that Professor X was taking people to school. Or Magneto was recruiting subordinates for the Brotherhood of Mutants. Later, after a little investigation, it was found that Professor X and his mutant school were gone. Even Magneto disappeared. Of course, they didn't expect that there would be such a powerful existence as Xiao Ming. They can only think that some force has taken action against mutants. No, a single force is not enough to do this. It is very likely that several powerful forces will join forces to suppress Professor X and Magneto at the same time. Who is it? I hope they don't simply eliminate mutants. Can I get a share of the pie? Every force that discovered this matter has its own little calculations and is actively searching and connecting. Many people have thought of stalking, specifically watching known mutants to see who will contact them or attack them. Unfortunately, their efforts are destined to be a waste of time, wax. Stalking has no effect at all. You must know that Xiao Ming contacted the mutants in the dream world, and stalking in reality is useless. Even if the mutant himself belongs to the intelligence agency and is unwilling to join the X Academy, he will not leak any information. Before leaving, just erase his memory of this dream. Moreover, Xiao Ming is recruiting mutants all over the world, and these American traitors' intelligence departments can only find out less than 1/10 or 1/12 of them. In backward areas such as Africa, the disappearance of mutants is often considered by locals to be the work of gods and demons. Therefore, many strange legends have been born. There are too many such seemingly true and false things. No matter whether it is CIA, FBI, or NSA, no organization can figure out the truth. Of course, because Xiao Ming recruits people in the dead of night when everyone is asleep, the efficiency is naturally lower. And although Xiao Ming can use mental power to scan the entire Earth, it does not mean that he can easily distinguish who is a mutant. Especially those with relatively low abilities. So in this regard, Professor X is still needed to lock the target. Then Xiao Ming will go to recruit. This will invisibly delay more time. Those who are willing to leave their hometowns and join X Academy are generally people in poor areas who live a hard life. Their families are also easier to persuade. Sometimes, they will even recruit a mutant like pulling carrots, and end up pulling his entire family of more than a dozen or even dozens of people. Xiao Ming doesn't care. As long as the contract is signed, he can't do bad things. The more people come to X Academy, the better. This kind of recruitment work is very difficult in developed regions such as Europe and the United States. Even if they make a living in the cracks of big cities, many people live well. For example, mutants like Wolverine. They don't care about a peaceful life, they prefer a bustling metropolis. Everyone has their own aspirations, Xiao Ming will not force them. Only those mutants with obvious superpowers but unable to protect themselves will be tired of hiding from human society and willingly join the X Academy. In the later period, Xiao Ming not only recruited mutants, but also some extremely poor people with good character were pulled into the academy. More and more people have gained a new life with the help of Xiao Ming. Looking at the smiles on people's faces, Xiao Ming, Cyclops, Storm and others also smiled. They all felt that Xiao Ming's ideas were quite naive. After knowing that Xiao Ming had made achievements, they began to slowly accept it. However, there is a problem of mutants that Xiao Ming has not been able to solve completely. That is Xiaodoqi. Xiaodoqi and Wolverine are the first mutants Xiao Ming has seen. She has the ability to absorb other people's energy through skin contact. If she absorbs the energy of a mutant, she can still use the other person's ability for a short time. The person whose energy is absorbed will be in a state of unconsciousness. This is a powerful mutant. If an ordinary person is absorbed by her energy, he will fall into a coma for a long time. Superpowers only bring inconvenience to the little rascal. Magic Planet Online Game. Author, Lanzai Cai Shi Zhen Shen. Chapter 827. In fact, Xiaodoqi's ability to absorb other people's superpowers for her own use is a very powerful talent. If she finds a strong enough source of energy, she can become an extremely powerful existence. It's just that the young Xiaodoqi can't control her superpowers and always hurts others unconsciously. Therefore, she has to wrap herself tightly every day to avoid hurting innocent people, unless that person takes the initiative to touch her cheek. There's nothing she can do. She is also a kind-hearted child. Because it will hurt people, she regards this ability as a curse and never wants to use it again. If it were a reckless murderer, he wouldn't care how many people he hurt. After repeated use, he will master the essence of this ability faster and reach a state where he can control it freely. Then he won't hurt people unconsciously. In other words, Xiaodoqi's kindness limits her development and makes it impossible for her to run in with her talent. When Xiaoming entered this world, he saved Xiaodoqi on the train, and Xiaodoqi and Xiaoming also formed a fate. When the leader showed his great power, Xiaodoqi naturally stuck to him. For no other reason, she hoped that the leader could solve her problem, and she would rather lose her superpowers for this. Don't tell me, her character was enough to make Xiaoming take the initiative to find a way to help her. At the beginning, Xiaoming couldn't think of a good way, and he even planned to clone a new body for her and then transfer her soul to it. But this requires Xiaoming and Xiaodoqi to have real contact, which will inevitably lead to Xiaodoqi's superpowers taking effect. It is too difficult to transfer her soul while being absorbed by Xiaodoqi's energy, and Xiaoming can hardly do it by himself. Just when he was extremely troubled, the solution actually jumped out by itself. In fact, it is also very simple, that is, to use plant props or puppets to feed and exercise Xiaodoqi's abilities. As for Xiaoming's body, he dared not have actual contact with Xiaodoqi. Although it is unlikely, Xiaoming is still very worried that the source energy will be absorbed by her, then it will be over. Similarly, it is best not to have contact with Xiaodoqi. After all, the connection between the Qiyao shadow clone and the original body is relatively close, and it may be sucked away. Xiaoming did not even dare to use the shadow clone and the mind beast for experiments. Who knows how strong Xiaodoqi's ability is? Only plant props and puppets, this kind of external things are the most suitable. In order to build X Academy, Xiaoming used the bean-casting soldiers and made a lot of low-level puppets as workers. Xiaodoqi thought it was not a human, so he didn't pay much attention and touched it casually. Unexpectedly, he actually absorbed the magic power inside the puppet. Without the support of mana, the puppet naturally fell apart. Accidentally causing trouble again, Xiaodoqi was so anxious that tears fell down, and repeatedly cried and said, "I didn't mean it." Xiaoming's eyes lit up. It turns out that the magic power of the puppet can also be absorbed by Xiaodoqi, which is much easier. Summoned a large number of puppets, let Xiaodoqi absorb at will, and deduced that the energy that Xiaodoqi can absorb is also limited. This is easy to understand. Xiaodoqi's physical fitness is just the state of an ordinary person. The energy that can be endured naturally has its upper limit, and it will not be too high. After absorbing full, her ability cannot be activated for at least 3 or 5 days. A meal can last for half a week. The reason why it couldn't be done before was that the mutants in this world could not reach this upper limit and couldn't feed Xiaodoqi. Even the 2A-level mutants, Magneto and Professor X, couldn't satisfy Xiaodoqi's appetite. Let alone others. In fact, Xiaodoqi can also absorb the energy of livestock instead, but she didn't think of it before. And she doesn't have that much money. Besides, if she absorbs too much energy from livestock, will she grow horns and hooves? Xiaodoqi can't be so hungry. But Xiaoming's energy is almost endless. Even some S-level beings are far different from Xiaoming in terms of total energy. It is impossible for Xiaodoqi to absorb all of it. Just be careful not to let her absorb directly from Xiaoming's body. Xiaoming's body has too many abilities, maybe she will absorb some strange abilities. He dare not take this risk. The energy she can absorb needs to be strictly limited. After several experiments, Xiaoming found that the most suitable for Xiaodoqi is aura. The magic power is a little worse, and the vitality of humans or animals is even worse. As for the energy of plants, Xiaodoqi's physique does not need it at all. Of course, source energy is no longer included in the experiment. It may be praised, or it may not be recognized. It is unknown. The cheapest way to provide aura is the props in Plants vs. Zombies. Especially items such as sun mushrooms and sunflowers that specialize in producing aura. Although these two are called plants, their aura quality is good enough and sufficient, which is most suitable for Xiaodoqi to absorb. And these plants are planted everywhere inside and outside the X Academy. Mainly to provide energy for other defensive plants. Now it is not difficult to make a large area specifically for Xiaodoqi. Xiaoming didn't bring out the zombie props, fearing that the humans here wouldn't be able to accept them. This worry is actually a bit redundant. In the field of novelty hunting, the American people are the most adaptable. Now that we have found a way, things will be much easier. Xiaoming specially created a large sea of flowers for Xiaodoqi. Under the shining of the sunlight moss, large patches of golden sunflowers that thrived, like an ocean, submerged the girl's soft figure. For the first time, Xiaodoqi felt that she could be so happy. Xiaodoqi, who has obtained a constant supply of energy from sunflowers, will no longer hurt people casually. So there is no need to wrap it so tightly. Putting on a beautiful dress, Xiaodoqi fully blooms her charm. She dances gracefully in the sea of flowers, beautiful and magnificent. Those who pass by, whether mutants or ordinary people, are stunned. For the first time, I found that this disaster star is so beautiful that it is bubbling. Omega among them, the Fireman and Iceman of X Academy are the most obsessed. They probably came out to play during the break and happened to see this beautiful scenery. The two teenagers couldn't even walk. Their left foot tripped over their right foot tripped over their left foot, and they fell down together with a bang. The body was twisted together and couldn't get up for a long time. The little naughty boy who saw the scene laughed so hard that his body shook. From then on, the three of them followed the original story and embarked on the plot line of mutual entanglement again. And the entanglement became deeper. In the original story, Pyro later joined Magneto's army and withdrew from this triangle relationship. In this life, there is no Magneto to make trouble. The plot of this love triangle will be more protracted. Magic Planet Online Game. Author, Lanzai Cai Shi Zhen Shen. Chapter 828. In the Bright Summit, in the barrier where Mystique was imprisoned, the Seventh Shadow clone Neo asked in surprise, "You want to join X Academy? Not follow Old One anymore?" "Yes. I have seen what the leader has done in the past few months. His method is indeed more reliable than that of Professor X and Magneto." Mystique paused. "It's not that they are not smart enough, but that they don't have such strong strength. X Academy may become the real home of mutants, and I am willing to do my part." Observing Mystique's life energy carefully, Xiaoming found that what she said was actually true. "I didn't expect this." Another subordinate of Old One, Toad, also said he wanted to surrender. As a result, Xiaoming saw that he was lying, so he casually inserted a sort of rewarding good and punishing evil into him. Originally, considering that this was a race war, humans were considered enemies of mutants. Magneto and others killed more for the survival of mutants, and it seemed that there was no way to pursue them. Xiaoming didn't want to go too far, so he didn't use the sort of rewarding good and punishing evil on them. Toad insisted on running into the muzzle of the gun, so we could only help him. Unlike Toad, Mystique is not a die-hard follower of Magneto. She also has her own demands and standards. For the survival and status of mutants, Mystique Raven Darkholm's ideas are roughly between Professor X and Magneto. At first, she followed Professor X, but later she felt that humans were untrustworthy, so she stood in Magneto's camp. Even though she was locked up by Xiaoming, Raven did not change her mind easily. Talents are rare. In order to win over Magneto and others, Xiaoming broadcast the process of building the mutant base to them in real time. Seeing that the mutants' underground base was taking shape bit by bit, the underwater base and the Mars base were also put into construction. It would be a lie to say that the 4 mutants were not shocked. However, Sabretooth and Toad had no opinions, and they followed Magneto's lead. Magneto's ideas were stubborn and had not changed for the time being. He felt that what the leader did was just a castle in the air, fleeting. Among the few people, only Mystique was truly moved by Xiaoming's handwriting. She took the initiative to surrender. "There is just one thing, I don't quite agree." Mystique, who turned into a beautiful girl, said solemnly. "Really? Tell me about it." At this time, the one who received Mystique was the 7 Stars Shadow clone Neo. "Your contract does not allow mutants to break the law." "This is not well thought out," Mystique said. "It is fair in the mutant territory, after all, no one can break the law. But if they go to the human world, they can't break the law, so they have no fighting power, right? What if they are attacked by ordinary people? We can't break the law, but humans can, so we are at the mercy of others." "Ha ha ha," Neo laughed, "you misunderstood. The contract only requires compliance with the laws of X Academy. It does not require compliance with the laws of the United States or any country. Mutants will not suffer. This matter was discussed by Charles and others, and I forgot to tell you. No wonder you misunderstood. Are you relieved now?" Raven nodded. "That's right, I also think the leader should not make such a low-level mistake. Let's do this, I will also sign a contract. Let you all rest assured. Mystique has the superpower to transform into anyone, which is very practical. If she can join, she can be a spy for mutants in human society and lurk for a long time. Although the mutants have started a new life, their understanding of human society cannot be interrupted. There is a possibility that new mutant babies will be born in the world at any time. The work of recruiting new people cannot be stopped. Moreover, Xiaoming can finally ask her for more blood and body tissues. Xiaoming's analysis of Mystique's ability will be easier. Because Xiaoming has learned the transformation technique in ninjutsu. The Insect King has also absorbed part of Yuppie's ability and can also transform. With these 2 abilities as a foundation, it is easier to analyze Mystique's transformation ability than to analyze others' abilities. After signing the contract, Mystique officially became a member of X Academy. Others had different attitudes towards her joining, but Charles was very happy. Unfortunately, Mystique did not rejoin Professor X's team. After all, the concept is different. So Mystique set up another mountain in X Academy. In order to make her words more important, she also pulled Xiaoming to help her get some subordinates. Before being captured, Magneto had established the Brotherhood of Mutants, which had hundreds of mutants of all kinds. Most of them were low-level guys. Since Magneto and 4 other high-ranking members were imprisoned by Xiaoming a few months ago, the Brotherhood has fallen into chaos. It's a bit like the monkeys scattering when the tree falls. During the period of recruiting new members, Xiaoming also came into contact with mutants in the Brotherhood in his dreams. Unfortunately, only a few inconspicuous low-level mutants were willing to enter the X Academy at that time. The other mutants were not very good in character, and most of them had violent tendencies. Xiaoming had no good way to deal with this group of people. You can't catch them all, right? Bright Summit can't accommodate them. Anyway, there are many gangsters in human society, and these mutants are just a drop in the bucket, so Xiaoming ignored them. Raven still has some prestige in the Brotherhood. She took action and quickly won over a dozen low-level mutants. They all signed contracts and joined the academy. But challenges also come one after another. In the open space outside a cabin in the wild, Raven found some mutants living here and was actively lobbying them. She was already familiar with the words used to recruit people, and described the attractiveness of X Academy to the mutants eloquently. Suddenly someone on the periphery said, "Humph, what nonsense you are talking about, what ability do you have as a little girl? Why do you lead the Brotherhood? Since Magneto is dead, from now on, I will be the boss of the Brotherhood." Everyone looked in the direction of the voice and saw dozens of mutants walking over. The leader was a burly man wearing a helmet. "Red Tank," everyone exclaimed. The person who came was also famous, and all the mutants here knew him. Raven also knew this guy. In the comics, Red Tank was a being that could compete with the Hulk, but in the movie he was just a very strong mutant. The X-Men world naturally follows the setting of the movie. Juggernaut is a very violent guy. Magneto was planning to recruit him before he was captured by Xiao Ming. Now Magneto is probably dead, and the throne is vacant. It is normal for someone to want to take the throne. Juggernaut is followed by several of his younger brothers. It is very likely that they think they are not Juggernaut's opponent, so they encourage Juggernaut to fight for the throne behind the scenes. They can be his loyal subjects. You are listening to Novels at Bless Up channel. Wish you happiness and luck. Please subscribe to receive new novels. How do you feel about this novel? Please like and leave a comment. Magic Planet Online Game. Author, Lanzai Cai Shi Zhen Shen. Chapter 829. The most eye-catching thing behind Red Tank is a large group of guys who look exactly the same. They are all clones of the same mutant. This mutant is called Clone. This ability seems to be very similar to Xiao Ming's Shadow Clone. However, dozens of level 2 clones, no matter in quantity or quality, cannot be compared with the Shadow Clone. But this ability is already a deterrent to other mutants. Foreigners also understand the truth that there is strength in numbers. In addition, the three girls are also very cool. They are the real brains of this gang. The leader is a black girl, nicknamed Nightwalker. She can move at supersonic speed over short distances, and can also sense the position and ability of other mutants. She is a strategic level superpower. Another black girl is called Arclight. She can send shockwaves with amazing attack power. The last Asian girl is called Purple Witch. She can make weapons with her mind. There is also a hedgehog man with retractable spikes all over his body, and his ability is quite useless. In the original plot of X-Men 3, they will all join Magneto and become important leaders of the Brotherhood. Then they were all killed in the final battle. In this life, Magneto and Professor X disappeared together, and their organization became the leader of the mutant resistance. Under the careful plan, even without the help of Magneto and Fireman, they still rescued the clones and Red Tank who were captured by the government. Then they cleverly pushed Red Tank out as the leader, wanting to unify the mutant tribe without Magneto and Professor X. Nightwalker, who has the ability of radar, took Red Tank and others to recruit mutants everywhere. These people have committed many sins, although they are not serious enough for Xiao Ming to kill them personally, but Xiao Ming will not recruit such people to X Academy. Many mutants who had rejected Xiao Ming in their dreams were recruited by them through sweet talk, coercion, and inducement. Red Tank was not as easy to talk to as Xiao Ming. Those who dared not to join were turned into scum by his brutal collision. Mutants could refuse Xiao Ming's kind recruitment, but they dared not refuse Red Tank's life threat. They all surrendered. This made their arrogance even more arrogant. Today, they happened to find the same target as Mystique. In fact, it can't be said to be coincidental. Mystique and Magneto and others disappeared at almost the same time, which gave them the opportunity to come forward. At this time, Mystique suddenly appeared, and the news spread. Everyone was talking about whether Magneto was back. Then what's the point of them playing? Is the great cause of establishing a sect by Red Tank and others going to end here? Surrender directly? The three core girls don't think so. So this time, they came to meet Raven through the sensing ability of Nightwalker. First, explore Magneto's background. Is he really back? Or is he dead? If it is the latter, maybe he can recruit Mystique as well. Then Red Hulk will become the true successor of Magneto. Their minds were blinded by interests. This time, several core members went out together, but none of their minions were brought along. Facing Magneto's appeal, it is probably difficult for the minions to remain loyal. The only ones who can really be relied on are these few leaders. Nightwalker, Arclight, and Purple, which do not look down on themselves, they just know that Magneto is famous and they know their own weight. Seeing that Magneto has not appeared for a long time, it seems that Mystique is setting up her own camp, so they dare to come forward to provoke. It's okay that they can't beat Magneto, but can't they even deal with Mystique? As long as they can deal with her, they will be the only mutants. Thinking of this benefit, several people are ready to fight and give Raven a good show. Seeing that the men came with bad intentions, Mystique would not be so naive as to think that she could handle them with her mouth. If she wanted to fight, Juggernaut could crush her alone. So she turned around and looked at Trinity, the Seven Shadow clone who came with her. That meant, brother, it's your turn. Trinity, Xiaoming, saw that these people were average in strength. Only Juggernaut was a B-level warrior, and the others were only C-level. If she wanted to fight, she could certainly defeat them with the strength of the Seven Shadow clone. But that would be a bit lacking in deterrence, so she might as well give them something ruthless. Leaping to the middle area between her and the enemy, Trinity's eyes turned red, and the pupil pattern began to change. Suddenly, the upper body of a huge humanoid energy body appeared out of thin air, which was the Uchiha family's bloodline limit, Susanoo. The purple energy giant, now also wearing chakra armor, held a huge Cloud 6 style in his hand. This appearance is really shocking. Whether it was the red tank and others who rushed over from the front, or the mutants who were watching the excitement from the back, they all stood there in a daze. Their jaws were no longer in their original position. Riven also saw Susanoo for the first time, and was even more frightened. She knew that the leader was awesome, but she had never seen such a powerful move. She had seen Xiaoming's large number of clones, a large number of puppets, unreasonable alchemy, and powerful barrier cages, and thought that this was too much. But no matter what, she never thought that one of the clones of the leader had such a powerful ability. Are you really a mutant? Are you pretending to be that great god? Xiaoming was slightly aware of the complaints from Mystique, but he didn't care. It was normal to have a brain full of water when seeing Susanoo for the first time. Just relying on an image may not be enough. The Cloud 6 styles in Susanoo flew out of his hand, and under the control of the sword control technique, he chopped at a bare hill. Boom, the power was comparable to that of a missile, and a large piece of the top of the hill was chopped off. The flying smoke, dust, and gravel covered the sky and the sun. The deafening roar could be heard several kilometers away. This is the power of a blow from an A-level master. If this blow hits Red Tank and others, there is nothing to say. Even the clones with dozens of bodies will not be spared. This group of people will turn into ashes together. After this blow, except for Trinity who was shrouded in Susanoo and Mystique outside, everyone else's knees softened and they all knelt on the ground. The clones were also scared to only have one body left. At the same time, the American Special Forces who were quietly following Red Tank and his group from a distance were also frightened. Seeing the huge half-body energy giant, it actually floated towards them. The captain leading the Special Forces mustered up his courage and shouted, "Shoot!" For a moment, more than 100 Special Forces soldiers turned their fear into strength, holding up various guns and shooting wildly at Susanoo. Magic Planet Online Game. Author, Lanzai Cai Shi Zhen Shen. Chapter 830. The question is, from which corner did this group of special forces come out? Why are there not bullets but large pieces of syringes flying all over the sky? WTF? What is the traitorous American government doing? Xiaoming actually has to be careful when dealing with these ordinary people with bodies between level 1 and level 2. Although there are few good people in the army, there are not many who are extremely evil. If you use a little more force, you may kill them all. So Xiaoming tested a new ability on them. No, it should be said that it is an extended application of the old ability. Remember the skill Mars virus? It is super effective in cleaning low-level soldiers. But the lethal effect limits the application of this skill. For so long, Xiaoming has collected the genes of many mutants, including some mutants who make viruses or toxins. Their abilities are very close to Xiaoming's, so it is easy to use them for your own use. Especially for the body of the insect king, making viruses is simply too simple. So the skill of Mars virus has been extended on a large scale. Many viruses of different levels entered Xiaoming's virus library. This situation is suitable for using less powerful viruses. Inside Susanoo, there was a figure next to Trinity. It was the insect king Green Xiaoming. Then a strong but not fatal cold virus spread silently and extremely quickly. I saw the special forces soldiers falling to the ground in rows like cutting wheat, with headaches, fever, and weakness. Looking at more than 100 2-meter-tall tough guys wearing special forces combat uniforms, rolling over and over on the grass in the forest, making groaning sounds. Xiaoming almost laughed. This contrast is so cute. All tough guys are the same when they are sick. In the distance, the group of mutants could not see these human soldiers, but only saw Susanoo floating above a forest, and then it was motionless. It seemed that they heard gunshots. The group of people kneeling on the ground looked at each other, wondering. What do you mean? Why did you leave us here? What happened over there? My knee hurts a little. Can we stand up? Can we? Can we not? Can we? No. I'm just asking casually, why are you so serious? Can we? Mystique was also at a loss. Just as she was about to go over and take a look, she heard a voice from afar, you guys get up, I'll go back. After that, the huge Susanoo disappeared from the air, and Trinity's clone stepped on the Zanpakuto, holding 2 officers in his hands, and flew back directly. Bang! The 2 officers were thrown to the ground. This pain was nothing compared to the discomfort of a cold, and the 2 of them only groaned slightly. The Night Walker, who had already stood up, had a little desire to show off, and asked first, Sir, where were these 2 soldiers captured? Is there a US military camp nearby? Hee, you guys, you didn't even know you were being followed. They came with hundreds of special forces, and now they are all lying in the woods over there, Trinity replied indifferently. Impossible, Arclight retorted loudly, we have taken off all the signal devices on them. There is absolutely no omission. They will not be tracked. They must be coming for these people. After saying that, he pointed at the mutants around Mystique. Arclight did not dare to put the blame on Mystique, so he had to put it on the mutants living locally. Seeing her so excited, she actually dared to contradict him directly. She must be very confident in this aspect and did a careful and thorough anti-tracking work. But the life energy of an officer lying on the ground changed significantly, and he seemed to be quite dissatisfied with Arclight's words. In response, Trinity raised her hand and used the healing spell on one of the officers, temporarily relieving his symptoms. Asked, you look like you are not convinced. Come on, tell me. The officer also knew that he was at the mercy of others, and he was dizzy and couldn't think, so he stopped pretending to be righteous. He answered while panting. The signal devices you dismantled were all baits we deliberately set up. The real signal is the smell. The smell. *5. The Nightwalker trio, the Hedgehog Man, and the clone were all surprised. Yes. The smell. When Red Tank was locked up, there was always an ingredient in his daily food that allowed him to emit a very slight smell all year round. After hearing this, everyone, including Red Tank, sniffed hard a few times, trying to smell what the strange smell was. It's useless. Humans can't smell it, and dogs can't smell it. Huh. The officer panted again, only our special instruments can detect it? As if he wanted to defend humans, the officer said again, don't think that your superpowers are so awesome, human technology is not that simple. Oh my god, Arclight and others all looked confused. It's really hard to guard against. Although humans don't have superpowers, this black technology is really pervasive. At the same time, the insect king in the woods hid his body and collected the guns, ammunition, and equipment of these soldiers. Especially those guns made of plastic and bullets made of some kind of medicine. These must be famous. What's your name? Trinity asked. Lieutenant Reese, the officer answered, and added his title. Okay, John Doe. Let me ask you something. What kind of gun is that you brought? What kind of bullets? Is it specially used to deal with mutants? After a short moment of silence, Reese shook his head and said helplessly. It's all in vain. You are so powerful, and now, there is no need to hide it. Then he spoke intermittently, and in the middle, Trinity had to give him 2 healing spells before he could continue, but the content was absolutely shocking. It turns out that humans have already developed the so-called antidote. A drug that suppresses mutant genes. After being injected, the mutant will lose his superpowers. It will be lost to everyone. And the antidote can be mass-produced. With this magic weapon, the fight between humans and mutants will completely gain the upper hand. For Xiao Ming's mutant base, this is actually a good thing. Many mutants rely on their superpowers to run rampant in the world. I have no interest in joining X Academy. It's also a good thing that humans have some restraint on them. Having the ability is not the capital to do whatever you want. It is a pity that the United States is a country that advocates freedom, release of individuality and personal success. Their culture actually supports those who have the ability to do whatever they want. This is considered timely.